Good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to this Sunday evening's edition of Sunday Settie. I'm Sion Marshall, your host, and I'll be with you for the next hour and a half until 6 p.m. I encourage you to join me, and thank you for those who have. And if you've joined, if you've logged on to any of our platforms, be it YouTube or uh, Facebook, please share the link so that others can be encouraged to join today's program. I am going to share the link right now, so let me do that right away. Okay, my partner Gregor done uh let's see. You forgive me for doing this, right? Because I always stumble when this time comes up. But right, I'm going to now share. All right, I think my director had me staring into the camera without indicating to me that the program had started. Now with Uplate, I have the nice little intro, so I hear it, so I know when it's coming on. But the director's supposed to cut me down 3, 2, 1 kind of thing, and that didn't happen. So sorry. Right. So I've just shared it, and I ask others to do the same. And I thank you for doing it so that this program can reach as many individuals as possible. It's Sunday, the 25th of May. Um, as we are doing this program right now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is playing a friendly football match with St. Kitts and Nevis, the Riggy Boys versus, sorry, Lord, Vincy Heat versus the Sugar Boys. I think that's what the name that the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Federation, the team, goes by. That's happening at Chile playing field. And it's interesting because it's not happening at Annisville, nor is it happening at Victoria Park. It's happening in Georgetown. I think that speaks to the expansion of sporting facilities throughout the nation so that an international friendly can be held in Georgetown, not in Kingstown, not in Annisville, but in Georgetown. And as more similar developments occur throughout the country, you would see the expansion of these type of activities. We've said before on this program that you have under 19 West Indies cricket games being played in Park Hill and in Cumberland. And no doubt, as things continue to improve and as developments continue to happen outside of the center, and when I say the center, I refer to Kingston Andersville area, you would see more of these type of activities occurring. So I have no doubt that right now in Chile, the match is probably close to being completed because it's a 90-minute match. So maybe another half an hour, so the match will be finished. I have no doubt that there are hundreds of Vincentians in Chile, individuals who traveled from across the country to go to Georgetown. And it's interesting because I know you hear me saying Chile, and you know there's a country in South America by that name. But that's the name of a village in Georgetown. That's the village where you have the modern medical complex. You have a fantastic uh, netball hard court and so forth. You have the Georgetown Secondary School, well, and the primary school, not too far, same place, around the same place. Although in these towns, you don't know where one village ends and one village begins. So somebody might tell you, no, but the school in Georgetown in Chile might not be the Chile primary school. I don't know. I don't know. But that general area is where you would find the playing field that is accommodating today's friendly. So I'm sure hundreds of Vincentian travels from across the country this afternoon to be a part of that game, that match, and I'm sure that that match is well supported in that area. So that's happening right now in Chile. So later on this afternoon, or rather this evening, you would also be having the launch of PAN. And a few years ago, I had the privilege of going to that event, an event dubbed Ivory Soiree, a very classy event that the Ulipan movement at that time under the leadership of Rodney Small, the now CEO of the Carnegie Development Corporation. I hope I got that right. They transformed this into an all-white affair, and at the same time, it just happened that my partner Terry and Curtis were all here around the time, and a group of guys, we just decided let's go into the park, and I was really impressed by the quality of the event, by the turnout of the event, and even to the way it appeared to be generally enjoyed by patrons, people who may not have necessarily been pan enthusiasts, but showed up for this event and thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. And so this evening at Victoria Park, that event is happening. Every soiree, the launch of Pan, featuring various Pan sides, and no doubt, I'm sure it's going to be a good event, and I'm wishing the event all the success. I would more than likely not be there, but hey, I ain't gonna be missed, I'm sure, because people are going to turn out to that event. All right. So that's this afternoon, things that are happening uh, in that program. Now, tonight, this evening, this afternoon, I am using a whole new platform, right? So I have changed. Okay, so I see. I just checked on Facebook and I noticed that the match is happening, and I hear Denny Vice, yeah, Denny Vice. And currently, if I were to give you the score is SVG 3, St. Kitts and Nevis 0, and it's 80 minutes into the game. All right, so SVG Vince Heat having a pretty dominant performance this afternoon out at Chile. So far, currently leading St. Kitts and Nevis 3 goals to nil. All right, so that's happening there at Georgetown at Chile playing field. All right. So I was saying to you a while ago that listen, I just frightened when I see people put your post up. I just pass a picture all about and I frightened, but it's he self post himself. So okay. Um so yes, that's there. So as I said to you this evening a while ago, I am trying a new platform uh, for my streaming. Good evening, Josh. Good afternoon, Josh, and thank you so much for joining. Please share the live and encourage other persons to tune in. I am looking at a new platform. And so this afternoon, we are still testing a lot of things. So for the next couple of shows, I really want to focus on testing so that, as the show continues to improve, you continue to see improvements. It's a lot more seamless, and we don't have a lot of the issues that we had, 1 or 2 weeks ago. All right. This evening as well, you would be able to call into the program because I do not have a guest this afternoon. Again, as I said, I don't want to be trying a new platform. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been trying the phone line. Today, I'm trying a completely new platform. I told you recently that the platform I use is StreamYard. I've changed from StreamYard. I'm trying a new platform which has similar capabilities, but there are some additional ones. And so because I'm trying this new platform, I didn't want to invite a guest today to, be doing that while I'm trying. So, but so far, so good. My director seems to be, so far, so good, director. All right. So things are working good. And hopefully, we have a very seamless program this afternoon. Now, I want to start at any time. At any time, you can call. The number is at the bottom of the screen, 784-532-7650. So at any time, you can interrupt me. You can call at any time. Okay. Now, last week, I had I had a reason to call into a local radio station, and I posted it at just about a bit. It was about a 3 minute call or thereabout. I had reason to call into that program because of a discussion that was ongoing. Now, last week, Thursday, we talked about the spiritual Baptist celebration in Park the day before the 21st of May, 2025, the first celebration of Spiritual Baptist Liberation Day in this country. This event was held at the Victoria Park, and it involved a service led by the Spiritual Baptists, the group that's the focus of the holiday, to call it that, or the celebration. The Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, attended the celebration naturally and was on the stage, on the platform, with, other members of the spiritual Baptist uh, hierarchy and so forth. And during the celebration, you saw that Dr. Gonzalez, there was some drummer there. Dr. Gonzalez went and was involved in beating of the drum and so on and so forth. And for the most part, I thought personally, and individuals watching here may disagree, and I'm giving you that opportunity to disagree live on air with your comments or what have you. But I thought it was a very light moment. Personally, I thought it was a light moment that Dr. Gonzalez got involved. He was drumming, and he was drumming in time, so he wasn't causing a disruption and so forth. But it seemed that there was some displeasure with that, and he got some backlash. Individuals accused him of making a mockery of the celebration. Individuals accused him of, going too far, using it for political gain, and so forth. And one morning, well, the morning after the Friday, I'm traveling and I'm hearing the discussion and I'm hearing some of the comments and so forth. And I decided to weigh in. And this is my perspective, and individuals are free to disagree. And you can give us a call, 784 and let's hear your take on the matter, as well as you can also put your comments up as well on the page. I thought that it was a very light moment. Now, yes, this celebration was headlined by a celebratory service led by the spiritual Baptist faith, members of the spiritual Baptist faith. And while the holiday celebrates or commemorates their liberation, it is a national holiday. So individuals, Vincentians from all faiths, the way I see it, I'm not a spiritual Baptist, and I'm sure many individuals who were at the back were not spiritual Baptists, but they celebrated and commemorated the event with the spiritual Baptist. And so, in the same way we celebrate National Heroes Day, and I've been to many National Heroes Day celebration, I have chaired many National Heroes Day celebrations. It always begins with a prayer, invoking the presence of God at the celebration. I didn't see anything particularly wrong or vulgar or obscene or inappropriate with PM's involvement in that level, beating the drum and so forth. Because the same way he was up there, he was singing, he was clapping like everybody else. Now, here is the differentiation I would make. I hear you, Josh. Josh says PM did nothing wrong. Here's where I make the differentiation. Now, if this was a ceremony, a service at Mount Zion Spiritual Baptist Church or one of those churches, I'm just calling a title. I believe that's a name though, okay? Or Mount Carmel Spiritual Baptist. And it's interesting that they're all monks, eh? And that is not coincidental. They're all monk, this and monk that, because they're all on mountains, right? If there was such a service at one of those churches where there was a formal service, formal in the sense that it's their religious, their specific religious service happening on the Sunday, which is the day they worship, and the prime minister was invited, he would more than likely be in the congregation. And if he's invited to speak, he would then make his way to the podium where he would speak, to the altar. If then he goes and trouble the organist or the drummer or the bell, then I would think it's inappropriate. I would absolutely agree that that's inappropriate at the church in its formal religious setting, Sunday or whatever day the service is being held. But this wasn't a service in its true sense. So, for example, Seventh-day Adventists, the church where I grew up, if they had a service, their services, their main services on Sabbath mornings, they go there. Politicians show up all the time. If we have, for example, something called Community Guest Day, the area representative may be invited. If you have, I know, you have Disabilities Day, for example, where they commemorate, disabilities awareness uh, services and so forth. You may invite the minister responsible for disabilities, and those individuals, more often than not, would be invited to speak. And I would expect that they would go, speak, and return to their seat. But this particular situation at the park, I didn't see anything particularly vulgar about it. I didn't see anything particularly inappropriate about it, because it was much more than a religious service featuring the spiritual Baptist. This was a national celebration that that was led out by the spiritual Baptist because it commemorates their liberation. But it's much bigger and much wider than the spiritual Baptist. And so Dr. Gonzalez participated in a manner that was light, was fun, I think lighthearted. And I think most individuals enjoyed. But Josh just said that the NDP is flogging a dead horse. No. mm, I I I I'm reluctant to go that far. However, I would show you sometimes, I will show you how it becomes a bit of a hypocrisy. Because I remember a couple of years ago when Rosette Bennett, my good comrade and friend who works at the ULP headquarters, when her mom died. By the way, that's the longest funeral I ever attended. Long, longer than the state funeral. But anyway, yeah, so Rosetta's mom died, and her service, the funeral service, was at the Spiritual Baptist Church in that little village between Kittels and Camden Park. I don't know what it's called. Something Rock, I think it's called it. And I got there maybe a little bit after 1. And after 4, they were still in the church. And I remember images, videos, and so on coming out of that funeral showed Dr. Gonzalez standing up and, getting into the movements and so on with the spiritual Baptists. And boy, did he get backlash. I mean, I saw people level all sorts of criticism on Dr. Gonzalez simply, simply because he got involved in the celebration. This wasn't, again, this is a funeral celebration, a funeral celebration, celebrating the life of I can't remember the lady's name right now, but I was there. And he got so much backlash. As a matter of fact, going way back many years, PM's association with the Spiritual Baptist Church has been criticized in the worst ways, in the absolute worst ways. But then just a week ago, a video surfaced with Dr. Friday and someone who I believe is a spiritual mother. Bernard Smith said he thought it was a good example. Um, uh, Let me see. I'm trying to read it about the closed caption coming over it. So he said it's a good example for the young people. So you had this video surfacing now with Dr. Friday dancing up and down in the middle of the pews with a spiritual. It looked like a spiritual mother up and down. No, I would love to do that with my good friend mother. Oh, what's my good friend name now? I can't believe I am forgetting her name. My good friend down in Clare Valley. Somebody from Clare Valley. Give me she don't Lenny, come on me. Oh my Lord, I can't believe I can't remember. Anyway, you know, I'd love to be able to go into her church and dance up and down the pew with her, because I love that lady and she loves me too. But I saw the video of Dr. Friday doing this, and some of the same people who criticized Dr. Gonzalez in a most vulgar way were clapping. were clapping and celebrating Dr. Friday doing it. And I thought, my word, how how could it be that the same action that you so criticized and thought was so vulgar and inappropriate done by Dr. Gonzalez is all of a sudden celebrated and applauded when Dr. Friday does it? Oh, now, of course, and it can be greetings to you. Of course, those individuals who support Dr. Gonzalez and even some what you call neutral individuals spot the hypocrisy immediately. And then they started saying, well, Dr. Friday, I follow fashion. You copy. Whatever you see Dr. Gonzalez is trying to do. And they may be right. Because for a long time, you had, or let me not say he had, but members of your party, supporters of your party, have been criticizing. I remember E.G. Lynch, for example, of blessed memory, made so much talk over Dr. Gonzalez's association with Johnny Jones Church. So much. But no, but no. Dr. Friday is finding himself at a spiritual Baptist church and he's dancing up and down in the pews with the spiritual mother. And oh, everybody love it. Well, everybody, but those who opposed Dr. Gonzalez previously are now so uh, 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 um in such glee as it is done by Dr. Friday. How? Please explain that to me. And so sometimes I can't help but think that it takes, look, let me say this. You, okay, let me put it differently. The very first person, Val, good afternoon to you. The very first person I heard say it was a friend of mine named Charleston Jackson. I'd never heard this saying before. But Charleston said to me, he said, see, and this is how Vincentians are. If they love you, they would love your sins. But when they hate you, they will hate your righteousness. I thought about that for a little while. I couldn't understand it. Back then, this happened 15 years ago. He told me this. But more and more and more as I mature and I learn, because I'm still learning, I learn every single day. And I look at our landscape in this country, I realize that boy, what was being said was it don't matter what you do. If they don't like you, they will criticize it no matter what. But when they like you, it don't matter what you do. You remember there was a saying that if the current president of the US shot his mother in the middle of Fifth Avenue, he'd still win the election. That is the level I'm talking about. If they love you, they would love your sins. But when they hate you, they would hate your righteousness. And the unfortunate thing about it is that there's so much hatred going around and we can't figure out why. Like, why do you hate X or Y? Why do you hate A or B? Why do you hate Mr. So and so or Miss so and so? Why? What have they done to you? And if those individuals were to reflect quietly on that question, they would realize that there's no reason for the hate, Save and except they've been told to hate that person through the demonization of that person by someone else. No other reason. I say this for example. I hate no one. There are people who, based on experiences, I refuse to engage with. I absolutely refuse to engage. I would never engage with them. But I do not hate them. I would never wish them ill. I may not wish them well either. It's neither here nor there, but I hate nobody. I hate no one. And too often, our actions are driven by hate. And so, when we hate, sometimes we don't understand that the hate consumes us to the point where we do not mind damaging ourselves because of the hate that we harbor. I use the word harbor in this colloquial sense. The hate that we harbor can be so great and consume us in such a way that we do not recognize that our actions, that the actions taken as a result of the hate are actually impacting us negatively. Sometimes you don't realize. And then maybe even the odd moment where we realize that we don't care. We rather damage ourselves if we can damage the object of our hate than just keep it moving. Now, is some of the hypocrisy that exists driven by hate? Absolutely. And I don't know why. I don't know why. No. Are there people who have their own personal gripes with individuals? Possibly. And so you resort to hate based on those experiences. That's fine. That's fine. But be careful that your hate doesn't consume you and damages you more than the object of your hate. As I said, I didn't think the actions of Dr. Gonzalez were inappropriate based on the context of the celebration. I thought that they were well intended, but other people may have a different opinion. But that's my 2 cents. Again, you're free to call if you have an objection, if you have a different opinion. Feel free. Feel free. Now, Val says they got caught up criticizing PM, not Nudif. maybe Val, or maybe while they criticizing PM, Dr. Friday realized, but that's effective. He's making waves. So you know what? Instead of criticizing him, let me learn from him. But still, it doesn't mean that they'll give you credit anyway. Doesn't mean. Now I came across a very interesting article in the newspaper recently. I just found it a while ago. And let me look for it again. Um, let me look for it again. I just found it, and it disappeared. So I'm going to have to go into it again. It was a piece written by someone who's referred to as an independent candidate. I'm looking for it now. I almost have it. Hold on, and you can tell me what you think. All right. By the way, similarly, as let me just go back a little bit on that thing with Dr. Gonzalez, Haruna 40 celebration. They do a 40 celebration edition bay. They put some random names on the bay. One of the names have to be Ralph Gonzalez, and oh my God. Oh my God. Now, this piece was written on May 20th, published on May 20th in the Asbot News Network blog. And it says SVG needs real change, not exchange. And the writer, let me go to the bottom to tell you what the writer is. The writer is, the name was there. Some- mm, um, person's photo is there, and the name is there as well. Because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to get it wrong at all. Anyway, all right. So it's there, right? And the individual, a lady, was speaking about the situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines currently and giving their opinion, it's an opinion piece, on what the situation is and summarizing that at the end of the day, what the country needs is not an exchange, but real change. And that person is offering herself as an independent candidate in Western George. But there was a line that caught my attention. Now, based on the photograph of the young lady, she looks relatively young. She looks like someone in her 30s. She looks like someone in her 30s. Early 40s, maybe, but mid to late 30s. That's what I see. I could be because I don't know the person, never seen them in life, but the person's there. All right? And this is what the person said. I want you to listen to this. Just one line, one line, one line. The person said, where's the line? Um, tu- 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 tu. I wrote it down, but I wanted to read it from the um from the piece itself. And I want those of you who are listening to weigh in on it, and please give me a call. Don't be afraid, right? Yes. Now she spoke about the experience that Dr. Gonzalez has, how many years he has. She said Ralph Gonzalez holds, okay, let me read properly because she didn't say Ralph Gonzalez. She said, we are not short of experienced politicians. The current Prime Minister, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, holds 7 tertiary degrees and has spent over 30 years in Parliament. The leader of the opposition, Dr. Colin Friday, boasts 24 years of parliamentary service. Yet, she says, despite all this experience, our people are struggling more than ever. So, we must ask, what good is experience if it lacks integrity? Families are struggling to put food on the table and pay bills. Too many of our young people are leaving school full of dreams, but with few to no opportunities. Our farmers are losing the battle to feed our nation to pests, climate challenges, and chronic lack of investments in agriculture. Sorry, that should be our farmers are losing the battle to feed our nation to pests, climate challenges, and a chronic lack of investment in agriculture. Crime has gone out of control, and our people no longer feel safe. Our debt to GDP is at an all time high, and the machinery of our parliament has not been effective in those who hold power, in holding those who hold our country's purse accountable. The individual, the lady says, our people are struggling now more than ever. And I question that. I question that. No, more than ever. You mean people are struggling to build houses now more than ever? Are you saying to me that people are struggling to own homes now more than ever? Are you saying that people are struggling to go to school now more than ever? Are you saying that people are struggling to get a scholarship now to study more than ever? Are you saying that people's salaries are much less, so they're struggling to with their salaries? No, more than ever. You see, there is a propensity in this country to just spit out emotive language with absolutely no context, none, or any foundation in facts. Just say it and people will run with it. So let's examine that. Or people are struggling now more than ever. When I was a little boy, or when I was a young teacher in the 1990s, teachers couldn't build houses. I could only talk about my profession. If you know police officers, if you know nurses and they're watching, you could comment and you could call, you could tell me. Because I remember as a qualified teacher in 1997, when I got my first check as a qualified teacher appointed, because I finished college in 96, but I was not appointed until 1997. And I remember that my salary was $1,274 a month. Those days, teachers to build houses struggled. They couldn't build houses until they were close to retirement or retired and use the gratuity. A significant number of teachers who owned homes back then had to depend on help from the community on Sundays to build their houses. They couldn't afford to build their houses. They struggled. Many still lived at home in their 40s with their parents. That was the struggle that I know in the 80s and the 90s. If I lie, tell me. The struggle for home ownership in the 80s and 90s in this country were real. You know how houses were built? You get somebody to come every Sunday and beat blocks for 6 months. Beat blocks. Beat blocks. You buy like a cement, you buy thing and so on. You joke thing from a rich man and so on. They shot the base, you could have a rich man. And you beat blocks over 6 months. And you have a pile of blocks in the yard. So you have a boathouse on stilts that must be falling down. And in the yard, you have a pile of blocks. And that blocks became a place to sit down and chill. It was also a washing station. That was what it was. If you don't remember, let me remind you. And then after you had them blocks there for a while, you save up, you save up, you save up. Then you start to work on digging the foundation. You buy some rum, you cook a pot of food, and guys came on a Sunday. And you watch them dig out the foundation. And then you do your foundation. And many, 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 many foundations were there for 6 months, 8 months, a year before anything else happened. Because it was a struggle. You had to work and save and take a piece of loan here and take a piece of loan there. You had to come up with 20% and 10% to get loans. And the salaries were small. So teachers, policemen, nurses in our country struggled terribly to own homes back then. If you were lucky and you had two individuals working, one teacher, one police, or one nurse, one police, or one nurse, one teacher, you might have a better chance. You might have a better chance. But the struggle was real. Today, teachers, nurses, police, public servants are able to go to the bank and get 100% mortgage. Their salaries, single individuals, single public servants, single teachers, single nurses are able to go and get their house on their single salary. And you say to me, as an honest Vincentian, wanting to put yourself up for leadership in this country, that people are struggling now to build houses more than ever? Okay. Maybe you need to go back and rethink your article Maybe you should go back and rethink your position, do some studies. Don't just spit out emotive language. Back it up. It's like what I just started. And I'm sure people watching me could say, yes, Ian, it's true. People could put up their hands and say, yes, Ian, it's true. I hope Mrs. Stein watching because I'm going to ask you business. About 1995 or so. She was a nurse in St. Vincent. She husband worked privately with a reputable employer, and they bought a nice piece of land in a particular area in this country. But when they look at their salaries together, they realize, listen to me, the dance carpet for the light. And they were able to do that because at the time they had certain things that were assisting, concessions that were assisting, so they could have paid them mortgage because certain things, other things were in place that made it easier for them to pay their mortgage. And you're telling me now, a young man, fairly young lady, the only thing you'd write is that people are struggling now, but that's like NDP Godwin Friday talking point. Now, mind you, I ain't saying that people ain't struggling. Nope. But I'm asking you to show me the facts that people are struggling now more than ever. I want you to show me that people are struggling to own homes, public servants specifically, teachers, nurses, doctors, that they are struggling now more than ever to own homes. Show me that. Bring the facts. Bring the facts. Don't just spit out emotive language. Bring the facts. Val says, Trucian, you still live in the parent home. Of course, you know how many couples live in it. Listen, sometimes in the parents' homes, you have two and three couples. Lady bringing she boyfriend, man bringing she woman, all of them because they can't afford to go out. Most people, you know something? There are many, many, many individuals who refer to their mother as tanty. You know why? Because you're a multi-family home. You grow up with cousins in the same home because your auntie, your uncle, make children, bring your girlfriend, live in the house with you, and you grew up meeting them, calling your mommy auntie. So you call your mommy tanty too. That was the reality. Now, people even wait until they're married. By the time they start to get a salary, they're gonna go buy their own house. Go buy their own house. Single people. But you tell me that people are struggling now to build houses, to own homes more than ever. I disagree with that. I disagree with that. When I was a teacher, I'm a qualified teacher, just in case. And that's something that can't be taken from me because I have it. I go to college, I'm qualified. I'm a trained teacher. I know how difficult it was for primary education. How many students couldn't come because parents couldn't afford. And to the credit of the NDP, they started the school feeding program that provided meals for students in the primary school. So the excuse that the child didn't have nothing to eat didn't work for you to keep them home because they get food at school. And then I remember that you had common entrance where 40% of the students passed, 38% of the students passed, 2,000 students go right common entrance, 1,800 students go right common entrance, 700 something pass. A few of them would get in, different schools here would have their private exams, students would write and they'll get in. But the majority of the students, some went back if you were young enough, some went to senior school for those schools that had. I know Shatterville Methodist had a senior school. Lord Village has a senior school. Well, most schools in Tonga had a senior school, and then they moved it to one school, which was Large Village, and I think two, and Cedar Prescott. So students who went to seniors now either went to Large Village or Cedar Prescott. But before Stony Gong's had senior school, they all had senior schools. So you went to senior one, senior two if you failed the common entrance, and you weren't old enough to resit. And others just dropped out. The struggle for secondary education was real. Was real. At best, if I want to give a very liberal figure, I'd say probably 55% of the students in total made it to secondary school. That is, those who passed common entrance, those who wrote on a Mountain View, one of the schools had their private exams, their students wrote their private exams and so on. I know in Northleigh, PTBL school, even if you fail and they got in the 140 and so on, they get a pick, as they used to call it, and they could still go and so on and so forth. So a bit more students may have gotten through to go. A bit more students may have gotten through to go. But today, as a matter of course, all students have access to secondary education. Access. Access is available to all students. So, I want to catch your name. I want to catch your name. But for some reason, her name was there. But for some reason, I ain't seen it this time. I ain't seen it. Um, I want to refer to her name properly. I want to, I want to refer to her name properly, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. As about we do the name alone. So this individual writes and says that students are suffering now to get in to access secondary education on every fall. They're suffering now more than ever before. Please make that make sense. Oh, when I left school, there were two scholarships given out. You had some Cuban scholarships, yes, and that was it. Today you have 30 something scholarships to Taiwan, you have scholarships to Cuba, you have the government giving over 100 scholarships, bursaries, and exhibitions, and you have almost 2,000 individuals applying for and receiving tuition assistance. So we're looking at 2,500 students or thereabout, compared to 10, 15 when I was going to school. And I'm supposed to take this policy serious to say that students have not little to no opportunities now, and so they're suffering now more than ever before. I'm really supposed to take this right serious? No, anybody could listen to me and say, "Oh, this is politics, your labor hack." But after they done throw that bit of personal attack there, let me get to the substance. Am I lying? So if you see a situation where over 2,000 people get tuition assistance to study, over 100 get full scholarship bursaries exhibitions to go study, and here and there you have a bunch of others going Taiwan and so on and so forth. How do I take you seriously when you tell me that students are suffering no more than every for opportunities, for scholarship opportunities? How do I take you serious? How do you look at me in a campaign and tell me vote for me because students are suffering now for a lack of opportunities in this country more than ever before? Do some students have difficulties? Absolutely. Absolutely. Do some students have difficulties. Absolutely. But are our students suffering now? Listen, our students have it easier now than ever before, and that's the reality. Our students have it now easier than ever before. I can tell you that my daughter went to university as a 19-year-old, and many other Vincentians have done the same. Hundreds. Vincentians are graduating now yearly with their bachelor's degree at 25 and 26. Hundreds of them from different universities. According to this writer, that represents greater suffering than ever before. Make it make sense. And we can go down the list. We talked about farming. I had a very good discussion recently with, well, different people. I wouldn't call names. Even as recently as last week, Thursday. I started Phil's bar. Phil, good afternoon to you, buddy. I had a really nice, hearty discussion with a more experienced gentleman. And we have problem with agriculture. Is markets the problem? No, because the price that we pay for things can't be suggestive of markets being the problem. When I left here, when I left here last year, I was paying, I think, $14 for a bag of ferrying because I love ferrying. I come back a year and a half, well, not even a year and a half, 14 months later, and it's 20 something dollars. Is that indicative of us not having markets? Because if nobody was buying ferrying, there was no way ferrying was going to raise from $14 to $20, $20+. A banana in this country. You could buy a Hana banana, right? Bananas for $2. No, a single banana is $1. Tell me that farmer's suffering when they're selling a single ripe banana for $1. Is it that there's no market? Oh, she says they're losing from lack of investments in agriculture. Who's supposed to be investing in agriculture? The government has been given free fertilization. The government gives uh, um, income support to farmers. You hear different projects where different things have been given with tillers and so on and so forth. You have the Taiwanese mission here doing technical work, working along with farmers. But why do you like me? Why do you like me this evening? Because I want to, I want to propose something. I want to propose this. That one of the problems that we have in agriculture is people moving away from agriculture. Not enough farmers. And one of the reasons why we have not enough farmers is because the current crop of farmers are getting down in age. And I remember as growing up as a little boy, my dad, Talo, he had this thing he said, BT books. BT books. I submit to you this afternoon that parents who farmed did not want their children farming. Parents who farmed did not want their children farming. They want their children to become engineers and lawyers and doctors and teachers and so on, not farmers. This they drilled in their children's head. Me now why you come for do the same thing me I do. Study a book so you could do something better. Because farming wasn't seen as anything good. Farming was laborious, hard work, and seen as the bottom. So you want they walk in office with tie and thing and pen and paper. And so many of the parents did their best to make sure that the children were stayed furthest away from farming. Now, if Sister Marshall and Tallow tell she children them, we don't want this farming thing for you. And we have big junk of land up in Sharps. And everybody go university. Hey, Miss Marshall, children do well now. They do well. Well, that land coming there. See what the government is doing in education revolution is hurting the NDP. Absolutely. So bad. They will say any but here's the thing. It may be hurting the party, but it's benefiting the supporters of the party because all of our children are being educated. All of them. So Miss Marshall, I have to believe she do well. Because how she picking them almost. University level education. QT, Laura, Ingrid, education officer, Gemma, special teacher up in Canada, and so on and so on. You know, everybody. Jill was a nurse, everybody. The only, she had three boys. Sado, who did farming, he did both confrontational and non-confrontational agriculture. That's the one who disappeared. Those of you who know my brother, he disappeared, going to St. Lucia on a boat. And Joby spending more time hitting the bottle than anything else. So you have all of these children, and they've all been steered away from agriculture. And so now you have lands in Sharps. Just did it. Is somebody to come and tell you, Miss Marsh, where the land just did on the and thing. Let me walk it and I give something after the land. And there are many other stories similar to that, where as the farmer, the original farmer got older, no child, some went away, others are working their fantastic jobs, and the lands that they had are left just there. And so where I was when I was growing up, where I saw fields of dasheen or peas or corn or plantains or whatever, I just see nothing. Or better yet, they go Gulin. When I was growing up in Gulin, I was Gulin, bay banana field. Banana field like joke and sour range. Now you go Gulin a bay house. House. So while I agree that there has been a significant reduction in number of individuals who are farming, one of the main reasons for that is not because of lack of investment by the government or lack of incentives by the government. It's a deliberate attempt by farmers to who didn't realize that in steering your children away from agriculture, you were damaging the sustainability of agriculture. Yes, Gemma, yes, he was a mechanic too. He was a mechanic before he went to farming. That is true. That is true. But he farmed the latter part of his life. That's what he did. He farmed. He used to farm up yam, peas, and so on, and he did farm up in the big bush as well too. But anyhow, yes. So how do I take somebody serious? You have not done any kind of analysis except spit out some talking points. You spit out some talking points. But how do I take you serious? No, there are some individuals in the same way you have the Republican base and so on in the US and a lot of other white right wing bases across the world. We have to just grab anything, misinformation, disinformation, and run with it. But how do you substantiate any of what you said? Okay, so let me get this. Is the crime is on the rise? It is. We had 50 something homicides last year. Already we have 16 also this year, 15 this year, and in 1 week we had five. So things were quiet for a little while. We had about 11, 10 or 11, and then in 1 week you had five. But again, what I question and challenge is the statement that Vincentians don't feel safe. I was listening to Hot 97 one morning. I was driving, and the guys, they were chatting after the murder situation in well, the homicide situation in Belmont. And both Luke and Jagger were saying that they do not feel unsafe. They do not feel unsafe. I don't think the majority of Vincentians feel unsafe, But this writer says they do. Based on what? Again, I am not sure. Because if you go to any event, if you're on the road and they have any event, you see people walking up and down, walking to the event, walking from the event, or late night, early morning, and so on, walking. People walking. You're on the road early morning, people are running, people are walking, people are jogging, people are cycling. What? Where is the evidence that people in St. Vincent and Grenadines feel unsafe? No, individuals will be cautious, and that's fine. Individuals may be cautious about places where they go, and I can accept that. I can accept that. But to make a blanket statement that Vincentians feel unsafe, based on what? There is no situation where people ain't going to church at night time or crusade night time because they're unsafe. There's a situation where people ain't going to karaoke is night time because they feel unsafe. A couple of Sundays ago, after cricket in Annisville, I went karaoke out Stubbs, place pack. Young people, old people. You drive across Judge Bar and call the gap, place pack. Young people, old people. And this is indicative. This is consistent almost anywhere across the country go. You have any launching anywhere, people all over the place. Last night, Camilo had a red line, drove past there, place nice. Night mass up in Choppins, place nice. Where is the evidence that Vincentians feel unsafe? Give me the evidence, please. So yeah, I agree with you. Crime is on the rise. There are people who are just. I looked at the video for the first time this morning. It was shown to me this morning where the masked men shop at two doors. One coming in first, the top door, shoot, shoot, boop, boop. Second coming in. And that was a horrific thing to look at. Horrific thing to look at. And I'm sure that people will be reluctant to enter into that shop. I know, for example, one of the places I used to go to karaoke was Frankman's. Since the accident, I've not gone back there. Does that mean that I'll never go back there? Not necessarily. But I could have been there and gotten shot in the crossfire, and people have been named for say, oh, me didn't think. I mean, I didn't want thing. You good afternoon, jail. Like you get the notification late, y'all. So look, I realize as I listen radio, and I do a lot of listening these days, 'cause I'm not on radio for obvious reason. I'm trying to walk through it, but yeah. Um, people just call and say anything. Travis posting a video saying that NDP reclaimed Kingston. He has not corrected it as up to the last time I checked. Oh, Vincentians suffering more than ever. Run with that. Oh, Vincentians feel unsafe. Run with that. And these talking points, repeated often enough, can stick into people's subconscious, and they're going to just repeat it. I'm not restricted in my movements. Last week, Sunday, afternoon, as I mentioned. I left. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you very much, Ev. See, he went to touch a pole in Collar many, many Sundays for karaoke. He felt very safe. I left home, drove up to Sandy Bay, London, watch cricket, me alone, drive back down. Me alone come. There was not a question about safety where I was concerned. None. None. And that is not to say that criminal elements aren't out there. Yes, there are criminal elements out there. The young lady said that, and clearly, but she said the machinery of our parliament has not been effective in holding those who hold our country's powers accountable. The machinery of the parliament not been effective, or is it the machinery? Because the law is there, it's there, the process is there. How has it not? How has the machinery not been effective? It's like it's like saying I have a car. My mother's go church. When church done on nights, me feel lazy, so me want to drive, and me never want to drive. And so he says the car now work. The car is not good to pick up man from church, but the car is perfectly fine. It's me, the driver, who went jump in the car to pick up my mother. The machinery is fine. There's a public accounts committee. By convention, the leader of the opposition is the chair of that committee and calls meeting and can summon X, Y, or Z to the public accounts committee meeting. None has ever been called. So if the person who's responsible for calling the meeting has never called the meeting, how is that a problem of the machinery? I've been advised that none has been called. And by advised, I would say that the claim has been made in Parliament multiple times by the Minister of Finance in the presence of the leader of the opposition, who has never refuted it. Most recently, uh, MP for Central Kingston, Sinclair Leacock, has reiterated the need for the calling of the meeting. So when I say none was called, it's based on those bits of circumstantial evidence that the Minister of Finance has made the claim, and before that, Dr. Gonzalez, the current minister, and before that, Dr. Gonzalez, has made the claim in Parliament many times that you're responsible for calling the meeting, you've never called it. And that was even before with leader of the opposition, Eustace. And it has not been refuted by either leaders of the opposition. So it's based on that I am making the statement that those responsible for calling the meeting have never called the meeting, which tells me it's not a problem with the machinery, it's the problem with the personnel. So when I listen and hear these type of broad talking points, statements that really amount to nothing, just emotional, emotive language without any real substance and substantive facts to back it up, it makes me question the motive of the writer or the speaker. I remember one time now, even before anybody who is familiar with me would know that when I go to radio, because I'm on radio, I do my best to do my research and bring the facts. And that has been me all the time. I've been on radio. I started doing radio. I started doing radio in I think in March or May of 2009, and I've been doing radio ever since. I've been doing radio ever since, and I do my best to ensure that when I go on radio, not to speak anything that I'm not factually sure about. And so when I speak, I can present those facts to substantiate my statements and my claims. And that was before I ever did any study of the law. Any study of the law. And since 2017, I have had three separate opportunities to study elements or areas of the law. And so even more now, while we're working on that, we're working on that. Even more now, when I'm trained as a officer of the court, where I understand the importance of the law and the facts of any situation, I am even more careful to ensure that when I speak, the facts are on my side. And so if I tell you, if I make any statement, you can be assured that I have the facts to back those up. And this afternoon, as I discussed this article from this young lady, which I consider to be quite surface in its analysis of the issues raised, I have brought the facts. You see, when you want to talk about suffering and exploit the use of the word suffering for any gain, and this is someone who, in an attempt to expose people's lack of integrity, has shown herself to be short on integrity. Because your writing shows that you've done very little research. There's very little analysis, just the repeating of some talking points that seem to have grabbed your attention. Because honest individual, no individual of integrity would look at the situation now, economically, socially, educationally, and so on, of Vincentians and make the blanket statement that Vincentians are suffering now more than ever. None. You can say that too many Vincentians are finding things difficult. And you can have a debate and discussion with that. You can say Vincentians ought to be doing better than we're doing. And we can have a discussion and a debate on that. You can say, for what we've accomplished, we could have been further along had we done X, Y, and Z. And we could have a debate and a discussion on that. But when you say Vincentians are suffering now more than ever, but you are unable to present those facts and break it down and show me how and where the suffering is greater now than ever, then I question the motive. And in the process, your integrity can be called into question. And that's my fault. That's your fault. That's your fault. Because you thought that picking up some talking points and running with them, making sure that your article is well written from a syntax and semantic standpoint, that is all you need. But no, you are substance. You have to bring this. At least if you're dealing with me, you have to bring the substance. And it's short on substance. Yeah, I'm sure Travis would enjoy reading that. Or any number of individuals who want to see the back of Dr. Gonzalez. Friday would love it. I'm sure Lavon King would be pleased with this piece of writing because when they read it, they see so much of what they say. So they absolutely love this article. But anybody at all who is interested in facts, anybody interested in facts, anybody interested in a real analysis of what is happening, reading this article would without a doubt raise questions. Without a doubt raise questions. One of the things that they love to do is raise the individual battles of this or that person. And I remember I was having a discussion and I got very passionate in discussion. Because don't come tell me about government and who lose work and who get fired and whatever. Don't listen. Don't. Because in 1985, 86, when people came to my mother's office at the town board as a town clerk, and simply because they knew she wasn't NDP, she was Labour, they came and they took the keys and told her, don't come back tomorrow. Dismissed her immediately, without cause, except for the fact that she was Labour. And then my dad, who was a tradesman, whatever job he went on, once it was government involved, after day one, when talk get back, that tallow upon the work, the next day, somebody came and told him to go home. Look, I'm telling you, don't, don't, don't. You like to play a game day. Don't come. Take that foolishness to somebody else. And there are many other hundreds of Vincentians who would tell you ministers would stop in the government jeep that they wasn't supposed to be driving up and down in and take away tools out of their hand and send them off the job. Listen, don't, don't. Look, I believe that we had challenges. This morning I was invited to High Point Church because my good friend Rika, who was visiting, delivered the sermon at High Point Church this morning, and so he invited me. Whenever he comes to visit me, he would invite me to hear him preach. Last time he came, he preached at Glen Baptist, which was the church he pastored at before he went away, and I was there. I worshipped with Angie. Of course, Val, that wasn't a secret. Everybody know that, right? Um, and he said, "Your challenges, your challenges are there to prepare you for something. No, you may tell me, man, I ain't a Christian thing. I ain't believe in them Christian thing. They and faith. Fine. But I'm not sure if you expect to go through life without challenges. And if you do, then you have another thing coming. So, do we have challenges? Of course, we have challenges. Do we sometimes bite off more than we chew? Absolutely, we can. We do. Can everybody do with a little bit more money in their salary? Yes. Listen to me, you know. Oh my Lord. I got to have a personal business today. I got to talk it another time because there are people who are currently complaining about how difficult things are while earning a salary every single month. And why is that? Could be problem with budgeting, priorities. I don't know. You gotta figure it out. But what I do know is if you prioritize and budget properly, again, I'm not saying you're going to challenges, but you'll find it a little bit more manageable. Hmm. Hmm. So look, am I satisfied where St. Vincent is? I'm satisfied that we're doing well. Can we do better? I believe we can. I believe we can. I believe we can. But is there the type of poverty and suffering and so on that you hear as talking points on programs regularly? I'm not seeing it. And if you are, show me. If you are, show me. No, with everything that's happening globally, coming back from COVID and all those type of things, Ukraine war, and even now Trump's tariffs, set inflationary pressures. That's common sense. That's common sense. Every country in the world talking about it, except the opposition here, because the opposition here, all the inflationary issue, well, there's no inflationary issue that is being imported. Everything is Israel's fault. And so when they come and when they win with the selling of our passports, they'll be able to rain down milk and honey on citizens and Iranians. Yes, 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 Val, they did. They did. And she was there until what, 2002, 2003? And then when she was replaced, E.G. Lynch had the letter on Nice Radio reading. And I was wondering who was reading Miss Marshall letter. But anyhow, that's another story. So look, we could talk about CBI. Remember my promise that I go have a CBI discussion. I got a CBI discussion. We got a CBI discussion. A full CBI discussion on a Sunday afternoon. But but expect that things are going to be challenging because of a lot of what's happening globally. I went to the US before I came home in March, and I could tell you, eggs cheaper here than in the US. I just buy a flat of egg for $25. A flat. Vala, why tell me? I buy a flat of eggs, which is 30 eggs for about $9 US. 30 eggs. How much do you pay for a dozen? Which is 12. I pay 9 US for 30, for two and a half dozens. How much do you pay for a dozen? And people in the US are telling you straight up, listen, I will car park the barrel again. I gotta skip the barrel this year because things are tough. And if things tough up there, it go tough down here because we import a lot of our things from up there. We import a lot of our things from the US. But I think we're doing enough here. I think we're doing enough to steady the ship and make sure that certain things are under control and that the most vulnerable are protected. The elderly, the young, the disabled. And I'm happy for that. So I'm not worried about the talking points. And I'm a challenge to a lot of Vincentians. I'm not talking about necessarily the base of any party. I'm talking about the individuals who some of these writers and social commentators are okay. So Val is paying between $13 to $16 for a dozen eggs. That's almost twice times I paying. That's more than twice times, sorry. That's more than a time and a half what I'm paying for 30 for 2.5 dozen. So if I'm paying $9 for 2.5, then I am paying about 350 per dozen US. So I'm paying 350 for $dollars. As I'll try and export some X-ray valve. So we know things are rough overseas. We know things are rough overseas. And we have to act like we know that things are rough overseas. And the challenges that are faced there will be faced here. But the point I was making earlier is do not allow yourself to be so gullible where some talking points here and some talking points there get to your head. Now, listen to it properly, internalize it, and most importantly, ask questions. And when you do, more often than not, you would find that what is written and what is offered as social or political commentary is nothing more than regurgitated talking points of individuals with some hidden and some very explicit agendas, but usually without the interest of Vincentians at heart. Until next Sunday, when I'm back with you with another edition of Sunday Settie. Let me thank you so much for tuning in. And I realize I spent all this money to get phone line for people to call, and I ain't calling. I figure it's guests all you want. No problem. I'll start to bring guests. And maybe when I bring guests, you guys would call to interact with the guests. But until Sunday, next Sunday at 4:30, when I'm back with you on behalf of my director and all those of you who spent the last hour and a half with us, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your Sunday.